What's up? Ed here from Geek, and I am back with Dustin and Mark Kelly. What's up, fellas?
What's up?
Hey, man.
All right, so we're back with another Google Ads Agency Roundtable. We lost a little bit of weight this week. We don't know where Nick is. It was probably because I showed up a little late to the party. Today we're going to cover two topics. Question one is going to be about sunsetting of ETAs and the introduction or the forced use of RSAs. And then we're going to get into some stuff on the agency side of things. So let's kick off with extended text ads, AKA ETAs, saying goodbye to those and moving into RSAs. Are you sad to see RSAs go? What do you think about, sad to see ETAs go? Are you happy with RSAs? What's your take on RSAs and everything going on, Dustin?
I am kind of sad to see ETAs go. The only real reason, like RSAs is something that I wish Google would have done a long time ago. Not the way they have them, but like when they first came out with responsive display ads, I'm like, man, they should just do this for text ads to make split testing easier. Yep. The thing that happened was we got it now, but there's no data really behind your combinations of ads. So like, to me, I feel like it's a great way to implement ads in a way, but it's a poor way to understand what's working, because you just have like a poor kind of good status for certain things, but you really don't know how much traffic. I mean, you get an idea of impressions, but you don't know what your click-through rate is on that particular version, conversion rate, things like that. So I'm a little bit unhappy to see ETAs go for that reason, but I am kind of happy that it's making it easier as an agency to split test, like to continually have split testing happening in ad copy. The problem is you can't like do a lot about it without creating another ad or just removing something completely. You can't really like optimize it the way it used to be. So, I mean, that's really my thought. What was the other question?
You basically answered it. Like, are you sad to see ETAs go? Are you happy with RSAs? That type of stuff. So you more or less covered those. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that I am sad to see ETAs go because they worked for us pretty well and they left us more in control. I felt we have to do a little bit more. Sorry about that. I'll turn my notifications off. We had to do more. We have to.
That's strike two, Mark.
Strike two. Okay, so one more and I'm out of here. Yeah, and the other thing that it's just one more move into Google AI, which typically I don't see being effective or as effective. I'm not going to say it's not effective. Some of their AIs do work pretty well.
It'll be effective for them to drive revenue. Yes,
it's very effective for them to drive revenue. So yeah, anything that takes away that little bit of control that we're used to having, and then they're harder to measure because you're getting, Google's giving you some feedback on the ads, but when are they ever right?
Yep.
Should I say that out loud online?
I think you just did. It's okay.
Okay.
I would throw out, we didn't like it because all of the clone campaigns that we cloned and edited off of, a lot of them were ETA ads, and we had to go back and rewrite everything. And
I just did mine.
We knew
they're all responsive.
Yeah, we knew we had proven campaigns working. Now we got to recreate the wheel on some of them. So kind of a pain in the butt. Outside of that, it is what it is. It's, shocker, Google's changing something. All right. Now let's get on what I think is more fun to talk about, agency side of things. Talk to me about, who do you guys use for payment processing? We use Stripe and PayPal. What do you guys use?
For me, I use FreshBooks. So they have WePay basically. There's some people that we're on Stripe. That's just for our software side of things, and they become a client through software. Then it's through Stripe, but generally FreshBooks. I mean, when we started, when I was with my other partners, we used FreshBooks then. So it's been since 2012, 13 that we've been on FreshBooks. I'm not saying there's not a better option, but for us,
it's a double,
I mean, it works, right? I mean, I'm not really out there shopping around for that 0.01% transaction rate. So
is there a recurring payment, an auto recurring payment that you're doing, or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it saves their payment method. That way they're auto billed every month.
There's an auto recurring payment, but the client has to check it, which is one of my problems with FreshBooks.
Yeah. No, they don't have to check anything. It just auto bills.
If they put their...
Well, I make it mandatory for them to put a credit card. When I send the first invoice, there's a checkbox. It says require credit card for this invoice. I leave that on. That way they have to put a credit card. It has
to be something I couldn't control, which is one of the reasons I went with PayPal. but
Oh,
maybe
really?
that's changed. I still have a FreshBooks account for some older clients.
Yeah, that's what we've been using. I mean, maybe there's some better options, but it works for me.
Got it. Nice. We use Stripe recurring payments. We use PayPal recurring payments. We use both for invoicing, depending on the need. We like both. Everyone talks smack on PayPal, but I like it. I think I think the people that talk smack on it came from like the shady internet marketing world and not necessarily from like legit businesses, and that's why they hate it.
Affiliate marketing crap and drop shipping, they shut them down and kept all their money, so now they're bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Oh,
Sorry.
I hear a big dog in the house. I like it.
Sorry.
That's okay. What kind of dog you got, Dustin?
Sorry, I got a chocolate lab who I guess heard somebody at the door. I'm at home today, so.
Nice. Well, it's usually my kids barking in the background. So
okay. Yeah, I don't have any of those anymore, so that's why I'm here at home because my wife's with one of my daughters, so they're not home.
All right. So you said FreshBooks. I'm assuming you're using that for accounting as well, bookkeeping.
No, actually, we don't. I use QuickBooks because I was going to use it, but my accountant just basically uses QuickBooks to run the numbers, and FreshBooks does have the ability to do that. But the thing about them is, for whatever reason, the expense side of it is not very good. Like when you set up this, this is that person and it goes in that category as far as expenses go. Yep. It won't remember the same exact amount, the same day of the month. Like it doesn't remember it all the time. Like, why won't you remember it? I'm like, if it was like, a different name that month or a different amount, I could say, all right, maybe, but it's literally the same payment I made for 5 years. They're all categorized this way. Why don't you remember it? So I got tired of updating it and I just have her do it. And she uses QuickBooks. She doesn't use FreshBooks. I'm like, whatever. Look, I just need a P&L and a balance statement. a balance sheet. I don't care if I have to do it. I'm paying you. So just let's get it, whatever's easier. So that's basically what I did.
When do you are you doing QuickBooks yourself, or do you have your accountant / bookkeeper?
No, she's doing it. And then I'm not messing with it at all.
When does she give you the finalized P&L for June? Like, what are you 7 days out, a week out, 30 days?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting her the information for the previous month by the 6th or the 7th because my statements don't come out until like one of my statements doesn't come out to that time. And so I'll get it like a weekend, well, probably like 10 days in, something like that.
Got it.
I'll get it. Yep.
You mean bank statement?
No, my P&L, balance sheet and all that. I'll get like year to date. And then like from the previous month, I'll get for the quarter, depending on what I get. But it's basically going to be within the first 2 weeks of the month, I'm getting year to date numbers and like the previous month's numbers for P&L and a balance sheet. So.
Got it. Yep. We use QuickBooks, same story. We shoot for under 7 days to get that data, just so we have a picture, so we get an idea of what we could spend. Mark, how about you? What are you using?
We're using QuickBooks, and to answer the first question, Stripe and PayPal. And I do the QuickBooks myself. I guess I'm old fashioned. So they're done the first Monday after the end of the month or end of the quarter.
Got it. Okay. Next one I have for automations. What do you automate in your business? I'm going to go with Mark first on this one because Dustin looks like a deer in headlights. Just kidding.
Yeah, well, Mark has just been working on that in terms of adding, making our website payment capable. So I'm actually using JotForm to integrate with WordPress and or Unbounce to take payments. It's actually a pretty cool tool if you've used it. Maybe we will mock Mark for using such a basic tool, but it's actually pretty cool.
Works, yeah. What difference does it make? It's a payment link. It's not like a landing page. It doesn't really look pretty. It's
a form. Basically, what I'm using it to do is to simultaneously take payment and push data into our ClickUp, our project management tool. So when they purchase a one-time product, a service like a landing page build or something like that, it automatically takes payment, pushes it in there. We use Stripe for this integration. And I don't really have any issue with PayPal myself either. And I noticed they just lowered their rates back to probably what Stripe was charging me. That was the only headache I had with PayPal, was that their monthly or their fee was a little bit higher.
And they're now keeping processing fees if you refund somebody. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, They came out with that. maybe a year ago, 6 months, 8 months ago. So it is what it is. I get it. But at the end of the day, like, if someone cancels a day in and you
Yeah.
want to be nice to them and let them out of it. Like, I'm saying a day into recurring, not day one of the
Right.
actual deal, but like month 3, they canceled day 1 and they're like, I meant to email you over the weekend or whatever. You don't want to be a jerk and you want to let them out of it and refund it. You'll lose that 20, 50, 80, $100, whatever it is, processing fee. So kind of sucks.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. So that's a thing. But yeah, I'm just doing the integration so that things can be as seamless as possible instead of having to create an invoice, send it. And I generally do that myself. I know that's not streamlined right there, but this way we'll just be able to not only point new clients to them at the end of a sale and say, go here, and have it automatically fill out the intake form that my team needs, fill out the, one-time or recurring charges, notify everything, set up everything in QuickBook, but also we can drive traffic there and do sales, right on the website, in a perfect world.
Got it. Dustin, how about you?
Same funny thing. I just finished my basically client intake process automation, which is more or less what you're talking about, not the same tools. So what I did was I created an internal intake form. This is one that I fill out that basically is like information you'd have to send a client an agreement or an invoice. Right now, it's just an invoice. So we're going to move to like terms of service and an invoice instead of having like a separate agreement to sign. So that's the direction that I'm going next. But basically fill in an intake form internally, client's name, all their information for the invoice, what team what team is going to on my side, what type of client are they using certain tools, whatever. Hit submit, sends them the invoice automatically, gets them added to our internal CRM, our high level, basically our version of it, adds them to ClickUp, creates the folder for them there, sets up, it also emails them out the client intake form, which is where they fill out, and it pre-fills a bunch of the information I've already included in that internal intake. So they don't need to put their name again. I know who they are, right? So I pre-fill that information. When that gets done, when they fill that out, now it creates all their tasks and ClickUp with their due dates and all that. So it's been a month that I had to do this, and I actually redid it. We had to do it a different way twice. So we're in our third iteration of, first it was like we couldn't use Zapier because Zapier didn't have ClickUp custom fields. So we used Make, and then Zapier came out with custom fields last week. So I'm like, well, okay. So we redid it there, half of it, because our Make scenario was 100 modules wide. It was freaking ridiculous. And I'm like, the girl that I have doing it, I'm like, if this thing breaks somewhere, like I am not going to want to have to go figure that out. And if she disappears, I'm like, you know what? Let's just put it in Zapier. Now it's like a 15 module thing. Like that was all because of just like having to do certain things a certain way. So I learned a lot about ClickUp and the limitations of it, and also everything else. But the intake process and just getting a client into ClickUp built out, task assigned, ready for setup is what we did. And we're working on the next part of some of our build outs, our campaign build outs, which we have a template for that'll work for most cases. It won't be like 100% template like you probably have, but it'll probably get 80% of the way there, which is a huge win for me, with some minor stuff. So that's the next thing I'm going to finalize with ads. The keyword part's the easy part. The ad part's a little bit different because, you have to get clients' information. You can't just put random stuff in there. So
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what we did.
Very cool. I'd say all of our automations are in Asana and in Close. Close the CRM that we use. Asana, basically, triggering different things to happen. If this happens, then that happens type stuff. Not a ton of automations. Like we're not using Zapier for anything. We're not using Go High Level to trigger anything like that. I'd like to get to the point of what Dustin's talking about and getting Justin, our sales guy, to move onboarding information through a form that kicks off a folder or a new client profile in Asana and like kicks the ball going off that way. That's something that we will probably work on. It's probably like 5th or 6th on the list, but there are other ones we want to do. And then I'd say, I think automation, I also think of checklists and like different ways that you've defined a process, not necessarily just happening with magic and software behind the scenes. So, yeah, I'd say that's it for us on the automation side. Outside, my most important automation is a recurring payment, Stripe and PayPal by a mile.
It's the
That-
most profitable one, huh?
Yeah, it is, but it's also like people discount the idea of sending an invoice and waiting on collection.
Never
No
done that
collections
before.
needed in this business, and it's a life-changing thing when you realize that each month you're starting off with X number of dollars, and then it auto recurs, and that sale happens. It's a life-changing thing, recurring revenue. So
Back in the day, in another business, I used to go to the post office or wait for the mailman to come to see if I had money. And I didn't like it.
oh gosh,
One thing is sometimes the checks didn't come, but the work had already been done.
oh yeah.
So that was a bad thing to me.
I was talking sort of about that, on the Rep Stack podcast I just did. We're talking about like lessons my dad taught me operating with my dad. And it was a couple of them that come to mind is not every month is 4 weeks. So you can't base work invoicing off of a 4-week month like a lot of people do.
4.33.
Yeah, you make the mistake that they lose that 5th week month all the time. And they
Every
just,
third,
they're
every
like,
three
"Listen,
weeks,
why
every
am I
3
losing-
months.
why am I losing a month's worth of work here? What's going on? So there's that. And then it's, if it's your price, it's my terms, or vice versa. And you can't have both, you can't have price and terms. And if you invoice something and you give them terms, and their price, you're going to be, there's a time value to money, and that waiting on money is a terrible, scary thing in business. And you got to bring in operating capital, and it's a nightmare. So you can't, it's either your terms or your price, but the person can't have both.
Yeah, speaking of that, you've been beating on me for this for a while, Ed. We have really standardized to a large degree the service we offer as a package. We're not saying you have to do this, but we're saying if you want this price, this is what we do. If you want us to, work in your website, your systems, we'll consider it, we'll scope it out, but we're not doing, you can't get order item number 3 off the menu at same price as you get, a handmade steak dinner or whatever, so we're trying, those are probably the worst analogies in the history of analogies, but we're trying to continue to say we can give you concierge level service if that's what you need, but you can't pay, Costco prices for it.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when we made those switches on the white label. This is going back probably. So it's funny. I can remember where I was, in what room I was in when I made certain decisions and had certain phone calls with people. I can tell you I was in that room. So that means that was at least a year and a half ago, or I made a decision. I was in that apartment. And I can tell you, and it's strange. I have that weird physical memory of where I am having certain conversations or decisions. We had that decision. I was in Hoboken. So this is going back 5 years of if we're going to operate in a white label scenario, we're only operating in our infrastructure. And if you want us to operate in your infrastructure, it's going to be obscenely more expensive to the point where it doesn't even make sense for you to do it. And that was a big thing because we used to be logging in and out of landing page softwares, logging in and out of call rail accounts.
Project management tools.
Oh, we always said no to project management tools because that.
Oh, I used to do that.
Yeah. And I remember it being scary because I was like, we're going to cut off some of the market here. Like, are we ready to do that? And it was scary, but it made quality of life on the back end of it is way more important than just more revenue. Not all revenue is created equal.
Well, and you get better at what you actually do.
Yep.
Which is the other benefit. You do cut off a market, but it's a market we'll serve them.
Yep.
It's just starts at $1,500, type of thing.
Yep.
And then because in my feeling is if I'm going to market your business and I'm going to walk through and learn your systems, there's a value to that.
Yep.
And it's not $449.
Yep.
Yeah,
for
there's
sure.
a cost to it. I think the other thing with automation, really quick, just to backtrack on that we did recently in ClickUp, but I'm sure you could do this in Asana, is, and maybe for you, Ed, it doesn't make as much sense because you guys have like singular campaigns, but for us, if we have to write new ads, the client has to approve.
Yep.
Or if we have to create new campaigns, or there's something else that what we've done is create tags. So like, let's say a client says, hey, Dustin, we need a campaign for this, or they wouldn't tell me, they tell Laura or whoever on the team. When she creates that task for whoever's on that client, she'll add the tag for like new campaign. And once that task is completed, ClickUp automatically creates a new task for the senior on that team to QA that campaign. So that way, because what happened before is we'd have new things launched, and sometimes it might slip through their mind. Like I'll be like, hey, did you check this campaign? Oh, I haven't got to it yet. I forgot or whatever, right? There was like ball droppage, right? Like usually wasn't anything major would happen because a lot of times there's no issue, but sometimes there are issues. And I'd like, you know what, if I can automatically create the task when it's noted as new ads, new this, whatever. And for the new ads, it's like, okay, create a task for us to send to approval or for approval if that client needs approval, or there's a tag for confirmed completion. Sometimes the new campaign is created, we launch it, it goes live, but we got to tell the client, let them know it happened, let them know it got done, right? So these tags all create these follow-up tasks. They link to the original task that says like QA campaign. There's a link to the original task that has all the details because, you might have forgot what it was exactly about because it might have been a week or something like that. I thought that's been pretty helpful too, because now you don't have to hope people remember that, hey, we had that new thing. Did you remember to check it? Oh crap, I didn't get to it yet. Or, oh, they didn't tell me it was done yet. So now I'm like, all right, well, that's not going to be a problem, hopefully, anymore. All we have to remember is to add the tags to the task. So that's an easy one. I thought, man, how do we get around this? And it was just a simple automation and ClickUp to do that. So
I guess we do more automation than I think. It's all in Asana. Like we do exactly what you've just said. We can. So let's say we implemented the red light, green light, green light, yellow light, red light. Sorry. So
that's the worst way to ever heard it.
I'm thinking of my kids' school program. Little side note: my daughter, it's the smiley chart. Smiley is up top, purple, blue, green, orange, yellow, red. Lily is always smiley or purple, always perfect.
That's awesome.
Eddie wakes up in the morning. He's like, man, I'm gonna try to get on green today. I'm gonna try. He's not even close to it. He's he's like, I'm gonna try to get on basically where they start their day. Start at neutral. I'm like, oh man. So we implemented this traffic light system for health of accounts, and like not only health of account, but also perceived health of account based on client feedback on like their level of satisfaction. So once something gets triggered as yellow or red, it automatically flags a task up to the manager, the director in that role, so that he can keep an eye on it. And then from there, he can set like subtasks to follow up with it. So that's been super helpful. We're implementing the same thing with missed management payment. So like, let's say a card doesn't go through. We have a set of tasks that will initiate like a checklist of like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 5, day 10. And at day 10, if we haven't collected, unless there's an outstanding reason that we deem as acceptable, we're going to process as a cancellation. So that's that. I guess we use more automations than I realized, but yeah, that's important stuff because like you said, stuff slipping through the cracks. Like, I don't know if I said this on a podcast or the interview last time, but we had a client we hadn't billed in like 9 months.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said it on live or if we talked about it offline, but something like that is something that shouldn't have happened if automations catches like fail safes, nets were in place. And I think that the automations are going to help with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we had one of those too. It was not good. That was before I was doing the books though.
Yep.
I never had that happen.
We've had it both ways where we forgot to bill the client, and then we've had it where we continued to bill the client, and so I've had both ends of that spread. We had to cut
out
a
good side on that one, though.
Yeah,
The clients tend to notice that though.
you would think.
Yeah.
This was $6 or $7 over the year.
Oh.
Never noticed it, and they didn't notice it. And I ended up calling them, and I was like, guys, I fucked up. I'm going to cut you a check. And because here's the deal, it was a recurring payment through PayPal. As soon as you cancel that recurring payment, they get an email. Having said that, they hadn't seen the dozen emails prior. But there's
or the charges in their account.
What's that?
Or the charges in their account.
Or the charges in the account. But there's karma, and it would have come back. So I
Absolutely.
called them and I was like, listen, I owe you guys, the difference here. So kind of a check for that. That was fun. Rob likes to remind me of that one. Yeah. So, all right. Last topic of the day is SOPs. So, couple great books on the topic: Systemology, Clockwork, and this new book I'm reading right now, which I highly recommend you guys, is The System is the Secret. This book is ridiculously dense, but you can break it off into pieces, and it's literally every section of a business, the type of systems you should have along the way. Highly recommend this as like a field guide. And then Clockwork and Systemology as kind of top level with implementation stuff in them. That's been our biggest thing over the last 2 years, is implementing systems in the business. So what I want to do now is go around the horn and talk about your favorite 3 SOPs, standing operating procedures, checklists, things that you've implemented in your business to make life easier, to help you grow and take work off your plate, and you operate in the manage the business as opposed to operate in the business. So who wants to go first? I'm going to let you guys pick who wants to. All right, so Dustin, what do you got? What are your top?
Yeah, so as far as checklists, SOPs, there's the client onboarding SOPs, making sure we have all of our logins, making sure we have access with the right permissions level, which Leazy's really helped with that, actually. So that's been a huge blessing. We were able to put that in part of our onboarding intake form. So now that gets mostly handled on the way in.
Yep.
But clients don't always have that right. So we have that. The launch checklist for new accounts. When new accounts go live, a launch checklist that goes through all the key things: the billing, the settings, the geos, like all the crap that could happen. There's always something. There's always something that gets missed. And it's nothing major. It's just a little thing. Oh, we didn't connect Google Analytics to Google Ads, or oh, we didn't add this call extension to Google My Business, or whatever, like minor stuff usually. And then the other one is like the setup process. It's either between the setup process checklist or the actual optimizations for each type of optimization, depending on the week that we're on. Yep. I think those 2 things are really helpful. I'm constantly tweaking them though. So like even right now, having a meeting Monday, we're going to tweak things a bit, but it's really just not that they're broken. It's just that I want to make it, I'm trying to take the SOP and try to make sure people are using their head as well as the checklist. And for the optimization part, it's the most difficult one, because everything is not black and white, right? Sometimes you have to interpret the data. So that's the hard one that I have to tweak based on like people not being me and not knowing what I'm thinking when I create it. I need them to understand and take it. So a lot of times it happens, but those are my favorite 3.
Yeah. Well, one thing I learned is you have your processes and your checklists, but then you coach for strategy, like weekly, biweekly, monthly, whatever it is. And that helps kind of, you're basically, I don't know who said it, but it was basically, what if I put all this effort and time into training this person up to be an A player and they leave, and someone turns around and is like, what if you did it and they stayed? And like how much more impactful that would be in a negative way, which kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like, wow, you really do need to pour into these people and teach them to be better operators at every level of the business, or it's just going to hurt. So yeah. So, okay. So Dustin, yours was a client onboarding checklist, the launch checklist, and then was it the optimization checklist?
Yeah, I'd say so. That's probably the main one.
Okay. Mark, what do you got?
I think for us, it's probably pretty similar to what Dustin just talked about. I think a couple of the 2 most important ones are when we intake a new client.
Yep.
Is the account manager goes through and checks everything. First of all, they check the content of the intake form, because we ask some questions about expectations and things and budget. So you kind of get a feeling right there if the sale if their expectations are in line with reality, and it gives us a chance to realign those or not move forward. Real estate investing leads, I have $500 a month budget. What's your thoughts on that? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Minimum 3,000 a month, minimum.
Yeah, that's what 35 is what we.
So we do 3,150 a day, Monday through Friday. At that 3,000, they only can run 5 days a week. Pick the 5, but only 5 days a week. That's
interesting.
We need 150 because click costs are going to be $40, $50, $60, $70 a click. as if you're doing manual, it may be cheaper with some TCVA, but the reality is it's expensive, and lead costs are going to be 150, depending on your strategy, 150 to 250 a lead.
Yeah, you just stepped all over my time there. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, dude. Man.
It's okay. It's all your time.
Your time.
So,
What you got? My bad.
so the launches, I think the two things that are super critical are the intake when we're first working with the client to make sure that we're going through, do we have their Google Ads account? Is it suspended? You know, are we working with an MCC? Yeah, that's a big one right now.
I'm writing that one down. We're talking about that next.
And did we get their domain? Do we, you know, does everything look copacetic on there? So we can start correctly, and we can eliminate any of the things that will cost us down the line. I like to envision us pulling a client through the process as opposed to trying to push it through. Because when you push, everything gets, you know, but if you're pulling it through, then it works much better in the end. So that is number one, is that intake form and getting everything started. The other most important thing, I think Dustin also talked about this, is before we launch, we do a pre-launch checklist, and we do add to that and modify it from time to time. But that's crucial, because that's where you go through, you know, are we pausing the existing campaigns in the account? Are we, did we add all the extensions? Is our swapping number working correctly on the landing page? Everything that someone should have checked along the line, but at the end, you just want to make sure. And there's a lot of things that can go wrong. We don't even, you know, sometimes you find something that, some little detail that didn't get done, and you have to decide, does that rise to the level of something I want to put on my checklist, or is this just such an anomaly that, you know, that it's not worth adding it every time? But those are crucial to me, because otherwise you just hit launch and then things go crazy. You know, do we set the budget correctly? All those things. The other thing, I don't know if it's an SOP exactly. We do a weekly stats overview where we look at all the clients. We looked at their performance for the last week, not inside of Google Ads, but just at a high level, meaning, yeah, did they spend their budget? How many leads did they get? What was the cost per lead? Is it matching our targets? Is it matching our KPIs? So to me, that's another crucial thing right there.
Got it. I like it. Okay. Mark, you nailed on something that's been happening. I want to go over this, and then I'll go over what ours are. Suspended accounts. We've seen more suspended accounts this quarter than we've ever seen ever. Ridiculous. We have probably 10 to 20 sales that are sitting on the sideline that we've refunded payments on that are suspended, that we're waiting for them to go through the process. And it's been like 30, 45 days. It's been a nightmare. Mark,
they haven't gone through that process several times already.
No, they have. We're waiting. Open appeals is what I should say.
Okay.
We're waiting on feedback from Google as to what the issue is. Some of them are silly, where it's a suspicious payment. Those are usually pretty easy to solve, but we're seeing like circumventing system policy, which it's like we literally just open up the account, they put their website in, and it's popping off, and it's like they didn't circumvent anything. There's nothing they could have done to trigger this. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe they ran Google Ads in the past. And like, I just started this business, 6 months ago, never ran Google Ads, didn't know what it was until we saw your video or whatever. And it's been a battle, and their support hasn't been too helpful on getting things through
Really?
fast. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, because they've been the same way. I've never seen so many. It's been the last 3 months probably.
Yeah.
I remember literally having this problem one time, and it was where someone did a redirect on their website or something, and so it was legit, and they went in and they got it resolved. They fixed the problem, got it resolved. Now people are like, they're telling me the same thing. I've never worked with Google. I don't know if that's always true. That's the problem. You don't know.
But like some of these people, I genuinely believe that they never did, and I don't know what the issue is. So I'm glad I'm not the only one. I know there are a couple other agencies suffering from it as well. Dustin, are you running into that much?
No, I mean, we've had like new accounts get suspended temporarily a couple times, but I gotta be honest, it's usually in the medical space when we run ads in that space. And it's like new accounts, we'll get them through, get them approved, and we're good. I mean, I very few people have run into that, but we don't, I think we're not dealing with as many like brand new advertisers that have never run ads before. They've already got an account a lot of times. So it's,
That's
like if
typically
we're
the
talking
issue.
to them, that could be why, because they're already
Yeah,
running
that
ads.
is true. It's a lot
It's
of new
always, it's always
accounts.
brand new accounts. Yeah.
And it's mostly been service-based, normal businesses for us. It hasn't been weird things because we don't work in too many weird spaces anymore.
Yep, same. All right, so between Dustin and Mark's list, client onboarding, launch checklist, optimization checklist, Mark's intake list for verifying information, I'll throw in a couple more that I think are important. Our cancellation checklist. So pausing the campaign,
Yep.
sending a screenshot of the paused campaign. We take screenshots of campaign performance so we can document it. There's a few things that we do during it. We remove them from Asana and Basecamp and ClickCease and Swadoo, remove the landing page, remove the hosting. Like, so we have a little internal checklist of the things that we do, and then back and forth for the clients. I'd say that's a good one. The checklist for missed management payment is one that I think is important because I didn't charge someone for 8 months or 9 months and learned that one the hard way. What are some other ones? Changes in a campaign, how we handle changes. So like changing a destination number in CallRail or what converts or whatever you're using for that. Changes on a landing page. So like all the different places that change, anything you've done, the way I was taught, if there's something you're going to do more than once, you need a checklist for it. And that's kind of what we've been doing over the last year, is just putting these things in kind of everywhere and taking all the information out of my head, and your head, and documenting it so that other people can follow our processes.
Yeah, actually, that's good. We actually just did the same thing with the cancellation. So now we have an internal cancellation form, just like the intake. It's just got created last week. So there's some more I got to do, but it basically will, like, we'll have to find from the client, are we pausing the ads? Are we leaving them on? Like, we got to know that, but we'll put the end date, because sometimes the day that you fill out the form is not the day they're canceling.
Yeah, that's a big
And then it
one.
creates the task. Then we have like our subtasks. It'll just basically assign a set of tasks like you just described, as
Yep.
well as update them in our CRM as like a past client, not an active client. Because I want to do a little bit more emailing clients and being more in touch, just in general, and just kind of keeping track of where things are. And also like archiving stuff, that'll be eventually at some point, but I think that's a really important one. Also, conversion tracking checking. That's one that I have on my plate right now to create. It's a good process. We have some SOPs for setting up conversion tracking, and I've gone through a ton of training with the team for it. But honestly, man, I need like a good checklist that's like basically a troubleshooting checklist, because usually everybody can get pretty like they can identify a problem.
Yep.
You can't always identify a solution. That's usually where I can get involved, unless it's like obvious, like the tag is missing from a thank you page. Well, put the tag there, and if that doesn't work, then we have a conversation. But when it's e-commerce and when it's like other things, I think it requires like a little bit more help, so that way I'm not getting sucked into it constantly, unless it's like I'm like I want to be like tier 3 support. Like it has to get through the junior person, the senior person, and then come talk to me before you're wondering what's wrong with the tracking, and I think that's another one that I have on my plate to create. I'm about a week behind on that one, but that's another good checklist SOP to have.
Yep.
Handy. That way you're not stuck in the middle of it all the time,
Yep, I like it. If you want to connect with Rob, I know Rob and Dustin and our team have built out kind of checklists and SOPs for split testing for landing pages. They've been doing that a lot. That's been a major project they've been working on for the last like 60 days.
What to split test or how to implement it. Is that basically what it is? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another one I have to work on.
How long to wait, and then how to roll it out to additional clients in the same niche.
Not
Interesting.
smart.
That's cool. I think one of the hardest ones to implement, and I think, again, Dustin referred to this, is the optimization processes, because that's half art, half science, and depends a lot on the person doing the optimization, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I can go in and look, when I go in to look at an account, and I think it's because just over the years I've solved a lot of problems. You go in and don't start looking at the minor issues. You look top down.
Yep.
At our devices, at our, those sorts of things. Is one device converting at 100% higher than the other device? days a week, different things like that that you can look at and get and then knowing when to make the decision, how much data is significant data. And the other thing is, how sensitive is the client? So there's like all these things that you can't just put a checklist that says, clients, super sensitive. This is the exact right amount of data that you need to have to make this decision. You could set up those things. They're not always going to be right.
That's one of the reasons we implemented the traffic light stuff, just to throw a customer into yellow if they are
That's
sensitive.
what we do, code yellow.
Yep. So
yeah, we do the same thing now. And you're in the vein of what you just said, Mark. What we also started doing recently is adding like an internal. We used to have calls for new clients to kind of talk through things, but what I did differently the last couple of months is we created an internal strategy doc that basically puts it in text. Not just, we have an intake form that has what the client told us, but then I have what I tell the team. And sometimes they don't take great notes, you know what I mean? Like nothing personal, but they just miss stuff, right? Because maybe I'm talking fast. I'm a fast talker, so it can happen, right? Or they just miss something that I thought was important that they didn't think was that important, right? And then it's like, well, why didn't we do this? Oh, well. So now we have a strategy doc. It basically is a lot of the intake information that a client's provided already, like the budget and whatever. And then there's some stuff like, okay, like how much, how educated is this client with Google Ads? And that's for my client success person to think about how to report on how things are going. Because it's like, there's sometimes that people barely know where their ads show. They know it's on Google, but they don't quite know exactly how that works. And then we're going to talk about like year over year ROAS and this, and they're like, well, what is that? And there's a bunch of questions. So we put in something like that, like how savvy is the client? Like, what is our process for handling? Okay, they have existing campaigns. How are we going to handle the transition to our new campaigns? We put it there. Like, what are some potential issues that I'm looking like we could be facing, right? So like sometimes you get an account that's been running, or it's a new client that that you're probably going to have some issues. Because like you said, Mark, you've done it enough times to know like this is a low search volume kind of account. So I already know we might have to pivot, add more keyword, do something, right? So I put that as well. Like, hey, here's what I foresee that could happen. Here's how we should handle it. So we can have a few weeks of, potential strategy ahead of us. And I think that's kind of been helpful. Now getting the team to really get used to it and adopting and coming back to it, that's part of the training process. And we've only done this a handful of times so far, but I find it helpful for me because I can brain dump right into this document. And when people say, hey, what about this? I will refer them to the document. Like, did you check the strategy doc? Oh no. Okay. Well, go there. Like, that's why I spent an hour putting that thing together and why I went over it on a call. So I don't have to have these questions, and I don't mind answering questions, right? If we're like on a call already and you ask a question, but like I'm trying to not become the bottleneck of information between what the client wants and how we're doing it. And we use the red, yellow, green, and we add blue in there too for scaling. But I mean, that's like a great context from like you said, performance. And there's like, well, what does the client think is happening? Because sometimes performance is good, the client doesn't understand it and they're not happy. Or the other way around, sometimes performance is bad, but they're happy because they're happy that, yeah, we're not there yet, but we're on the right track, right? There's a balance. And I didn't want to have two colors, then it just gets way too confusing. Of like, what's a blended color? Red and a green equals like, what is that? Like, I don't know.
What I typically do is ask to try to keep it simple, because I have people will overcomplicate things if you give them the opportunity. So I'm like, well, what are the 3 accounts you have that need the most attention right now? Just give me 3. I don't want to get a breakdown of every single account. And this one's like 90% there. Just give me the 3 that are the attention, need the attention the most. Let's take it and work from the top down on those. And we also will add notes to intake forms when we get them, so that sort of becomes not so much a strategy doc, but at least something you can refer back to and say, so you, because obviously if you have more than one person working on an account manager, Google Ads expert, myself, you're not going to convey all that information all the time. I had someone tell me something they said, well, I told so-and-so on the sales call. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, don't remember that. I wasn't on the sales call, and didn't remember it was a sales call.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, the transferring of information, especially because now we have another layer of junior PPC layer So now there's another, like, it's like that game of telephone. You just add another person to the line and they don't even deal with the client at all, which is by design. So they have really no idea on how the client is, like, personality wise, which is also a mistake. I think I want to have them like on the kickoff call with the client or whatever, just to hear the tone of voice, hear the kind of questions they're asking, you know, like, because I think what happens is, and I don't know, I could be wrong, but when you don't know the person that is the client, yeah, you know the account. But I think there's two parts to it. There's knowing the account and there's knowing the client. Yes, the client can be a total jerk and the account can go well, but I think the transferring of that success to the client, or explaining it, or trying to think like, okay, well, you know, what would this client want me to do, knowing how they are, knowing how they're thinking? Would they want me to be more conservative or more aggressive here? Do they want more volume here? Do they give me that inclination in the last conversation we had, or what, right? And if you have no real clue of who that person is or how they are, it can be tough, you know, and you don't really know what kind of information they're looking for. Yes, you can try to pass that through and you can have somebody ask it, but I just think, I don't know, 15 minutes on a call with somebody kind of gives you a good feel for their personality. And a lot of times you can, I wouldn't say you want to make a bunch of stereotypes or whatever, but you can kind of get a feel for it, right? As you're talking about the budget, as you're talking about, hey, what's our goal? And you hear the tonality, I think it conveys more than just the words, you know, like in a text. So that's something I'm thinking about doing.
I agree with you. I think we don't do it, but I agree with you. And I think that's why the personality trait industry is there. You know, when you learn how to talk to people and teach people based on their personalities, I think it's important. And I think you can frame how you talk to a client based on their personality. Like you mentioned a couple calls ago, this client's technical and wants technical answers. This guy's not technical at all. Like knowing that kind of stuff, I think is important. And then knowing if they're, you know, high D, high energy, or high I versus someone that's super analytical. I think it's important. And I think, yeah, I think it's a wise thing. I haven't really thought of it like that before at the personality level, but I think it holds true. And I think it's,
well, because you're on the sales side, you see it, you and me see, because we're, well, Mark too, we all see, because we're talking to every client we get, basically, right? But the guys, you know, two people behind you don't know who this person is. They just see an intake form with a name on it and a website. And to me, I always work better when I know who I'm working for. And again, it's just my personality, but I don't think it hurts for people to know people, right, on your team, because then it also makes you care about the person, right?
Yep.
And for me, I think I care more about people because I hear their voice. I see, like, man, we really want to grow the business. They're excited, and it kind of transfers that excitement to you when you're working on the campaign. But if you get an intake form, okay, let's use emojis then. This is how he was on the call. He had a big happy face. Right? We could use, I mean, but that's just not going to be the same. So I'm thinking, like, how do I really gel that into the people who are not in the front, but not, you know, have them on every call and on emails. That is not the goal. It's just like maybe that beginning part, like maybe that, hey, you're going to be on the call, you're going to listen in or watch it. Like, you don't have to say anything, you don't have to be on camera, but you're going to be on this call listening to what's happening. And I think that might be enough to kind of help make that happen, you know, at least just once. It couldn't hurt. That's what I'm getting at. It couldn't hurt. So I don't know. I'll let you know how it goes.
The hardest, and that takes us back to the original discussion, is how do you create a checklist that says those sorts of nuanced things? That's really hard to do.
Yeah, well, that's where our client success comes in. That's where we're taking notes and, you know, kind of conveying what a client's concerns but we're talking about humans. Like, you tell me how to document a human, that'd be awesome. I don't know how to do it.
I think it comes down to what we were talking about early on, and it's having your checklist, but then training for strategy, and like strategy on like why we do what we do, not just at a nuts and bolts level, but at a strategic level. And teaching them about the businesses that we operate in. So like real estate investors have different expectations than junk removal businesses. A real estate investor average job size might be 20 grand, and the average junk job might be 350. So like just teaching them, like, a lead is not a lead is not a lead, you know, and all things are not created equal, and just kind of giving them some insight, stuff that we take for granted because we've been around the block, and we know someone that has not had lots of different niche experience just isn't going to have that insight. So I think training them and talking to them about that kind of stuff and building up their business knowledge, I think, is the key to it. Them knowing how businesses operate more than just what their job function is, I think, is important.
Yeah, we run into, like, it's not even personalities, maybe categories. You have the white label, because we do a lot of white label, the agency client. You have the direct client who used to run their own Google ads. And
My least favorite sometimes.
yes, exactly. And then you have the, because we get that call. I had that call a couple of weeks ago. It's like the annual call from the client that used to do their own Google ads. And they're like, well, I know conversions are up 50% year over year, but, I'm like, well, but what? Why are we having this call exactly? This is your opportunity once a year.
I used to
to
get
just
500 times more clicks. It's like, yeah, because you were running broad match with a single keyword.
Yeah, why did my
Exactly.
coupons go up so high?
Yeah.
Why did my traffic drop so much? Because we're not clicking on, crazy search terms. And then the other one is the direct client who's never run AdWords and just wants to run their business.
My favorite
They're a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yep.
They just let you do your job. I mean, if there's anything wrong with that, like, can you imagine calling a roofer and telling him where to put the nail and what shingle to put? Like, look, you hire the guy, let him do his job, obviously within a reason. If he starts putting barrel tile and you got a shingle roof, we got a problem. But crap, man, you trust them to hire him. And for agencies, it's the same way. And if you lose that trust, it could be tough, right? You can't make a case if you've done something wrong with that person. But
well, we go back to the three key things that we target, which is, did we spend your budget? Did we get you leads at the cost per conversion that you wanted? And were they marketing qualified leads? And frankly, if we've done those things, then we can talk strategy and other things, but you came in and ordered something, we handed it to you. So, that's our fundamental task. That's our fundamental responsibility, is to do that. A lot of the other stuff is fluff to a degree.
that's an interesting point. I know we're kind of getting in the weeds, but I think it's worth it. You have clients who, this is something that I've seen over the years, and maybe it's the ones that I love the phrase, they know enough to be dangerous, because it's always true. It is always exactly that. But anyway, they know enough to be dangerous. And let's say you've got a budget of a few $1,000s, right? And you're in this account and you start from day one and you get things going and you're at a pretty good point where you've optimized campaigns fairly well and your performance is pretty consistent. But yet they expect you to be doing new things every month. Like, I don't mean like write new ads, because obviously that's part of it, or add new negatives. I'm talking about
Come back to me
like
with
revamp the
strategy.
strategy.
Yeah.
And my thought is, well, okay, if it's not working, then that makes total sense, right? Or if there's things that aren't working, we can get rid of those and replace them with something else. That makes sense. But usually when you're about 6 months in, you've already done a lot of that. I hope, right?
Is spend more.
Yeah, that's what I say. But they're like, oh, okay, so what else can we do? I'm like, well, if you want to spend more money, we get you more. Oh, but I don't want to spend more. What else can we do to get better results? I'm like, well, we're kind of, like,
that's what we do.
Can we move the needle 2%, 3%? Okay, sure. But like, you're not going to get 20% lift after we've gone to this point. And some people don't understand that. It doesn't mean you're not doing anything from that point. It just means that what you've done has worked very well. And to get that extra 20% usually requires more money.
Yep.
And you just max out what's working well. And if you get beyond the point of, hey, I've maxed out my market, now I have to use some kind of other strategy, like a more of an awareness kind of a strategy. Well, now we're back to square one on the whole strategy part of it. But like, if you've got impression share left and you've got budget in your pocket and you want more business, that's the easiest lever to pull and the right one to pull, I think.
We run into that a lot. First of all, strategy is expensive. If you really want strategy, it's not cheap. And people will ask, well, should I do remarketing? Should I do Bing? Well, we're still sitting at 50% search impression with your current budget. So let's raise that budget and get the rest of the leads that we can get now, give us more data to optimize with before we start doing something new. And they usually go with that.
Yep. Yeah, why would you pay me extra for management fee when you can just up your budget?
That's what I say. Like, you're on another channel, you're gonna have all, and no guarantee it's gonna work. So we're gonna be 3 months into that. Oh, it doesn't work as well, or the lead cost is the same, but you're paying us more. What did you accomplish? It's just, I think some people want to feel like they're doing something. And I'm that way too. I'm very, I want to feel like I'm doing something, but at the same time, I think making a smart decision, which is the goal here to do something new, or is the goal here to get more business? Because if it's doing something new, then that's fine. If it's getting more business, then we can do that a lot easier with a lot less risk. And, and then the other part of it, the other side of that coin is when you do try something new and then they're on you about performance, like, oh, well, how come it's not working well? It's like, well, this is new. This is exactly what we talked about. This is why we didn't want to do that. It's because we don't know how it's going to go. Or it's like, oh, well, they want you to test, but they don't want to lose performance on their current campaign. They don't give you more budget to test with. It's like, okay, we have $3,000, but we want to test this other campaign type, these other keywords with $1,000. Okay, but if you lose that $1,000 of good performance to put in something that might not work, and you get your report next month and your cost per lead is up because that campaign sucks. Like, don't come knocking at my door like we didn't try. Like, you know, and sometimes people have amnesia when it comes to that. They think things are going wrong, and the reality is, yeah, they're going wrong. The test didn't work, or sometimes it knocks it out of the park. But you have to be able to risk that money and take, like, you can't just, like, it doesn't always just work out of the box, right? There takes time, or else we'd all be rich and we'd all be, you know, we probably wouldn't be on this podcast right now. It would just work, right? We would just turn it on and walk away, right?
Yeah, we
Like
get
that.
asked those types of questions all the time. Will we get a lead within X number of time? Can you guarantee leads? Well, of course I can. It's marketing. I can work in the same niche in 5 different places. 4 of them work. One I can't figure out. I don't know if it's the market there, the reputation, the competition. I don't know. You know, most of the time it works. That's one of the reasons that we niche down. Thank you, Ed. Also, is because I've often said we'll take that on, but I have no clue. No one's ever worked in the, you know, that particular. That's not even a niche. That's just a thing, you know, whatever you came up with. I don't know if it'll work or not, but we'll put all our skills and effort into making it work. But no one has any history on that niche to tell you, or that particular service you came up with, that you want to target the U.S. with $1,000.
You want to get everybody in front of everybody in the whole US for $1,000. Good luck.
This is all coming from bits and pieces of conversations I have like weekly.
Yeah.
Yep. Or, and then if it's that, and if it works, I'll spend unlimited budget.
I'll spend,
Yeah.
we'll bounce that budget up. But
If I
right
had
now we want to go with
$1 never heard
$17 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It never happens that way. I mean,
Never has happened ever.
I mean, I think if you're selling courses online, you probably those are people who actually do it. I think
That's a
when it comes to
different-
like local businesses, you have a
Yeah.
whole staffing side of it or production side of it that you just can't even do that if you wanted to most of the time, and that's especially now.
I will say we ended up switching to a flat fee model. Well, I can tell you where I was when I made that decision. In Hoboken, living on Clinton Street, walking outside, talking. I used to do a lot of talks, like sales calls outside. Got off a call, called Rob, and I was like, bro, we should just go to flat rate on white label, because we used to have a tiered white label. So this is going back 5.5 years ago. And I was like, let's just go flat, because the reality is, and even on retail, not just white label, most businesses will never spend beyond what their initial budget is, no matter what they say, even if it's lights out doing amazing. And it took me a long time to realize that, but that's just a reality. And that's a cross section of 1,000+ businesses over the years, or way over 1,000 businesses. Most won't spend more than $5,000 a month in this. Most.
Even if they could, even if it's working, why? That's the thing I don't understand. It's like, I don't know. I used to get excited about, like, all right, we're gonna grow this thing. It's gonna be huge, and it's like, why aren't we growing? Like, we're hitting the numbers. What's the matter? Like, what? It's always something where it's like, it's like they lose interest, or I don't know what it is. It's the
And then you got
strangest thing.
these maniacs that are spending 5, 10, 20 grand a day. And it's just, they're built different and their business scales differently. And it's just, those are the avatars everyone wants. But the reality is, on the local service side of things, most are going to spend below $5,000 a month, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the guy who spends 500 or 300 never raises their budget ever.
Yep.
I've never seen it happen.
Yep.
Doing this 10 years, I've never had that. Yeah, we're going to start here. I know it's low, but as soon as we prove this model, we're going to increase it. First of all, it's hard to prove the model on 2 clicks a day.
That's what I say to them. I'm like, listen, Google Ads is not right for everybody, especially at lower budgets, because you've got to factor in management fee in there. You're not going to get enough clicks to get enough leads, to get enough appointments, to get enough sales, to get an ROI here. So let's just call it a day. I don't want to be rude, but I also don't want to take your money and you'd be pissed off in 30 days and leave.
Right.
Yep.
Sometimes you need those hard talks, though. That's what makes them realize, okay, I mean, not be scared, because scared money don't make money. And this is how it is. And if you can't put a few $1,000s in to grow your business, honestly, you shouldn't be doing Google Ads. That's just the way I look at it.
There are niches that are cheap enough that you can get away with 500. So it is specific to the niche, but like, just generally speaking, $500 meaning.
There's a couple niches that I could conceivably see that.
Like detailing as an example, 500 is fine. 25 a day.
detailing, or we looked at party rentals and things like that that are local and cheap.
Yep.
But
Party
I still
rental,
don't encourage it.
those will, yeah, I mean, we want more, but they can get away with it depending on
I
the
think that's
size.
usually when you still have low CPCs but decent lifetime value or ticket size. Like when you find those two things, it's always great.
Low CPCs are really hard to find these days. Yeah.
Like Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right, guys, I got to run. Anything else you want to leave off with today?
I think we killed it today with content, with different stuff.
Yeah, a lot of different stuff all over the editors.
You got 100 videos out of
It's
this.
gonna be like, what the hell, Ed? There's like 15 different videos in here.
We missed
All right.
a week.
Yeah, we did miss a week. All right, guys, I'm gonna end the recording, and that's it for today. You guys need
Okay,
anything?
guys.
See you guys.
Here, God bless.